The Australian insurance industry has been wrecked by a series of natural disasters that have made the nation rethink the way it protects the community. The Queensland and New South Wales floods, with more than $5.1 billion worth of claims, are the second most costly in Australian history. A year earlier, separate floods were worth around $1.3 billion. And in 2019-20, the deadly bushfires of that spring and summer cost a further $2.3 billion. Well, this week I sat down with Nick Hawkins, the Chief Executive of IAG, Australia's biggest insurer, after he announced a net profit of $347 million, up from a loss of $427 million the previous year, and just asked how the industry is going to cope in the years ahead.
I mean, that's been a tough run. I mean, it's been a very tough run for our customers, what you've just described. I mean, that's impacted people's lives, their properties, their livelihoods. But what we have in Australia, we've got a very resilient industry. We've been able to manage our businesses, and others have, the industry, through what you've described has been a pretty tough couple of years, and end up in pretty good shape. I mean, what we've talked about today is we've been able to deal with that. Some of our headline results have obviously been impacted by those perils, but we've sort of come out with a strong business, and we're able to grow our organisation. We're seeing our relationships with our customers sort of strong as I remember. Our retention rates are very good. We've got a challenge with one of our commercial businesses here in Australia. That's improving, and New Zealand's also doing very well. So we sort of feel like our company has come through that tough time, and actually we look pretty good.
Okay, so that being the case though, the amount of premiums you've written, the total volume of premiums is up, but you admit that that's largely inflationary. Yeah. So in other words, if there is a claim in a flood affected area, in a bushfire affected area, the cost of rebuilding is going up, and that ultimately comes back to a cost that you bear.
Yeah, and that's a topic that we're very focused on. We know that sort of changing weather, increased frequency and severity of events. We know that some of the challenges in the last couple of years is going to continue. We've had to reflect some of that as well as inflationary in our pricing. But there's a real discussion here around actually mitigation and resilience of our country, because what we just talked about, we don't see that changing over the next 10, 20, 30 years. That's going to be a theme that our country is going to have to deal with. We need to sort of lean into mitigation. We need investment. We need zoning decisions. We need building standards that can adapt to what we're seeing as this changed environment. And we need a more resilient country, and we need to. That's a long-term investment plan.
I was worried about that. I think Australians should be worried about this. If Australians can't bear the price of insurance because there is a lack of mitigation, then ultimately the community is put at risk to increasing numbers of natural disasters that we bear.
Yeah, and we're sort of in that chain. I mean, in a way, our company and our industry, we're the shock absorber, aren't we, for individuals or businesses' sort of challenges and volatility. We take that and we sort of manage that. But in the environment where we're going to, potentially going to see more of this over the next 10, 20, 30 years, I think insurance is not going to be the solver of this. What we need to do is sort of lean into the bigger issue around mitigation, investment, and really make sure we can adapt our country to be more resilient, where these challenges are going to continue.
But how does that fit with the fact that Australia's population is projected to rise from 25 million to 35 million in literally the next 15 years or so?
And I think we need to be thoughtful about where that population lives, recognising the changing environment that we're living in, and how they live, and the type of structures that we're building, the way we're going about that, where development is occurring, being thoughtful about, in this changing world and the changing environment, the changing perils risk around, particularly down the east coast of Australia, making sure that in our decision making that we're thinking about that.
Because there's no doubt that in the past, either state governments or city councils have allowed homes to be built in places where people have been put in harm's way. I think that's what worries the community. And the problem is there's a point at which you say, I'm sorry, we can't insure you. You've had 4 floods in 18 months. Or, I'm sorry, we can't insure you. You are in a very high bushfire prone area. That's the reality of it. And so it's either that government's got to make decisions, councils have got to make decisions, or you make the decision for them by saying, I'm sorry, we can't insure you.
And I think we all come together. because I think there's an opportunity for a more coordinated approach. Obviously, we have a lot of knowledge. A company like IAG, a lot of history, a lot of experience in how and where risks are and the likelihood of them occurring again. And I think that more of that needs to be incorporated into that ecosystem of what the industry knows, council planning, states, federal governments. And this problem's not going to go away. So the more we can be coordinated as an industry and a local and state and federal governments, the more likely we're going to be able to create a more resilient Australia.
Because there's another fundamental risk here. If you have to put more money aside to cope with increasing perils in the future, and people then say, I'm sorry, we can't afford the price of that insurance because the price is going up too much, or indeed that there's a competitive insurance market, you become less profitable or another insurer becomes less profitable. It really doesn't help the community in many ways that you've got this ongoing pressure that's just building.
That's right. I mean, we need, our economy needs a strong insurance sector, and therefore we need to be able to balance, how that all fits together in the way you described.
So then, again, go back to this issue of population. Where do the people, the extra 10 million people that are coming into Australia over the next couple of decades, where do they go to? Because as I say, they can't, go below into the flood zones where a lot of building has taken place in southeast Queensland and in New South Wales over the past decade or so. Where are they going to go?
I mean, we've got a big country, so that's helpful. And I think we just need to be thoughtful and coordinated in how we go about this, right? Because there is knowledge within the communities, within the industry, within lots of parts of our country. We need to be just thinking the whole time, we want a resilient country in 50 years' time. We don't want to create. We've already got challenges in the way we've built our country to date. Let's not make that worse for the next generation. Let's be thoughtful about, as we continue to invest and grow and population increases in our country, let's make sure that the way we do that is in a way that is resilient.
Nick Hawkins, Chief Executive of IAG, many thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Ross.